Hello, welcome to the news cabin. It's Tuesday, April 14th. Gonna run through some headlines for you. Hope everyone's doing well. It's definitely in the full pandemic lockdown right now, trying to figure out how to get out of this. What are the next steps? What are the things that we've been doing that have been effective? What are the things that are getting in the way the most of everyday life? And how to get back to it. So that's kind of what's going on here today. Gonna jump right into it, take a look at the Worldometer's numbers, and then I have an article that compiles a lot of the news headlines from the Financial Times. So that's what I'm gonna do for you here today. Hope everyone's having a good day working from home or whatever you're doing, able to stay positive through this time here, the COVID times. All right, Worldometer's numbers coming right up. All right, guys. Approaching 2 million cases, 120,000 deaths. I mean, despite all of our efforts, it obviously we've lost a lot of people. This one here that we always look at, so we're staying kind of down here where we were yesterday. So hopefully we can stay down here. And this gives you an indication that we're on the back side of the curve, and we hope to head down while also working towards immunity, having large portions of the population have their natural defenses against this threat. All right, now I'm going to go over here to the Financial Times. So if you look at this photo, so I like this article because it compiles a lot of information, and I definitely think that what Trump did and what he said, which is Donald Trump claimed he had total authority as U.S. president and insisted he had the power to lift coronavirus restrictions despite the nation's constitution leaving such rights to state governors. You know, Trump is not exactly a constitutional scholar, and he's just someone that loves power. So, although I, like some of the things, some of the actions that he does, I evaluate them critically, and when he does something that I think makes sense, I say I think it makes sense, and when I think that he does things that are terrible, I say that too. But he definitely doesn't get a fair rap. I mean, why was this photo selected? I guess these three journalists here, Eli Meixler, Emily Goldberg, and Neil Maxwell, they probably chose this photo based on their disdain for what he said, right? Or just the fact they don't like him in general. But, that's one of those things. I don't think that's objective. I don't ever think I'd be in a position where I'm supposed to be giving people the news and giving people what's going on about leaders, and I would choose this photo. This is just the wrong photo to choose. I mean, then again, what Trump said yesterday was extremely obnoxious, and so these three people decided to choose this photo. Like, I get it. I get the back and forth that happens between the media and Trump, and they just, because he's so abrasive and just the way that he acts, that's why he gets this type of treatment. That being said, I don't think it's objective journalism. During a White House news conference that ran for about 2 hours on Monday, the president also asserted that the federal government had absolute power as he fielded questions from reporters about when tough measures to stop the spread of COVID-19 could be loosened. When somebody is the president of the United States, the authority is total, Mr. Trump said at the daily White House coronavirus briefing. Several states announced they would band together in regional groupings to agree timeframes for lifting the orders that have effectively shuttered the economy. So, I don't think that Andrew Cuomo agrees with this, and I think that probably a lot of states are just inevitably going to want to get away from being under this guy's, decision making as to when we get back to normal. So the U.S. death toll topped 23,000, but the daily tally fell for a third straight day. So here are just a few headlines I'll just run right through, and this is the reason why I chose this article, is it compiles a lot of stuff. Leaders of Europe's hardest hit countries have vowed to keep lockdown orders in place but began outlining plans to reopen their economies. Brussels will present an EU-wide blueprint, according to a draft seen by the Financial Times. So this right here, I'm not a big fan of the EU project. I think that it's been detrimental to the countries involved because of in the wealthy countries, it's costing them money. In the poorer countries, it's I mean, it just overall the EU project is something that I'm absolutely not a fan of. And if you look at what's been going on with the coronavirus, one would have thought that the EU would be able to flex its muscles, if you will, and have a purpose to have a unified response to the coronavirus. But this again is a big reason why I'm opposed to the EU. It doesn't do anything. Like, this would be the time that the EU should be communicating information about how to handle this, should be doing all sorts of things to protect each country and to communicate the information. The EU has done none of that. You know what I mean? So that's the EU doesn't make sense because it hurts all the different countries. And so, yeah, that's what I think about that. In the U.S., price gouging has proliferated because of disorganized bidding for protective equipment. Right? I mean, right now I'm being offered to buy masks and to buy different stuff from people and at different prices. It's like, in a situation like this, you should not be allowing. There are ways to stop that from happening. So yeah, Mexico's unfolding presidential tragedy, COVID-19, has laid bare the weakness of Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, says the Financial Times editorial board. China's exports fell 3.5% year on year in March, marking a modest rebound for the country's trade sector after steep falls in January and February. The IMF will offer grants to 25 of the poorest countries to cover debt. The Asian Development Bank tripled its assistance to member states to $20 billion. Japan is urging the public to reduce social contacts by 80% while avoiding a complete shutdown. Look at this. So this Japanese recommendation, or what they're doing over there for the coronavirus, is, it's a plan, right? It's something that's achievable. I'm sure that's why they put it out there. And it can help stop the spread while not destroying the economy. So they're reducing social contacts by 80%. In Sweden's far north, skiing continues. Beyond the Arctic Circle, a heli ski lodge and small ski resort are still welcoming guests. I mean, to me, like, even though, yeah, that's like kind of just wealthy people being able to not live in the same reality as we do, that's also, if you think about it, they're going far away in isolated places. To me, there's nothing wrong with that. This here is a real nice graph. So just to explain, this is days since average daily cases past 30. So that means this is somewhere in March. And as you see, the U.S., I mean, it's the biggest Western country, right? So that's why it's going to go up like that. Sanders endorses Biden. Bernie Sanders endorsed Joe Biden for U.S. president, giving the presumptive Democratic nominee a quick backing that could help heal factional divisions. The former vice president laid out his plan for safely reopening America. I think that most people who are Bernie supporters kind of vomited in their mouth when they saw this. So yeah, I mean, obviously Bernie is going to do what he does. He did this last time when he was, when Hillary won the nomination. So he's a Democrat. Fed support faces blowback. The Federal Reserve is facing criticism over its unprecedented and politically fraught plan to provide emergency funding to states and large cities, but not smaller localities and organizations. U.S. companies raised more than $2 billion in debt on Monday. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. We have lots of plans to make sure that large organizations don't, are fully taken care of. But small businesses, individuals, people, that's who's not taken care of at all. And who needs it the most, right? Back from the stratosphere, junk bond yields slide after Fed action. So I guess because of the Fed's action, the bonds are going down. Oil under pressure. Oil prices came under pressure on Monday on doubts that record U.S.-backed OPEC deal to cut supply would be enough to rescue a market ravaged by the pandemic. For Moscow, the deal offers a chance to mend relations with Washington All right. SoftBank forecasts historic loss. The Japanese group has warned of a $12.5 billion annual operating loss, its biggest ever, after its $100 billion Saudi-backed investment fund sustained a $16.7 billion hit. Amazon jobs push. Amazon on Monday said it will hire 75,000 extra staff to handle coronavirus-induced demand despite mass job cuts elsewhere in the U.S. economy. That's what I got for you. Thanks for joining me here in the news cabin. Just wanted to compile a lot of different data about what's going on. I want to kind of go back to when I was mumbling my words about my thoughts about the EU. The main thing that I think about the EU is that it's an extra level of governmental representation. Most people in the EU cannot tell you who the EU president is. I find that to be kind of crazy because he has so much power. Just in general, if you look at the price levels, when I lived in Germany, there was a period of time where we went from the Deutschmark to the euro. I lived there when that happened. And in some places, the value of the euro was half as much as the Deutschmark, but the price level just jumped significantly. And really, it's a question of perception. Every country can tell you about how the euro has hurt them. No country is sitting there saying, what I'm talking about is what the water cooler discussion is. Everyone in Europe is always complaining about the EU. So why don't you guys split up? It's not a good situation. It's a project based on German guilt of World War II. That's not a reason why you should have large governmental structures because you feel guilty about something that happened 70 years ago. That's insane. And just overall, the way that smaller countries feel like they're taken advantage of by Germany and, the English financial sector, and then bigger countries feel like, that they're just sending all of their money to these countries. So clearly their goals are not aligned. It creates animosity between the countries, and it just seems like it was a project that was based on just these really emotional notions of being together and helping each other out and stuff when these people don't know each other. The EU is not, there's no European culture. When Bono flies the European flag at a rock concert, there's no emotional, visceral reaction that happens. It's fake. Your cultures are Italian culture, Greek culture, German. These are real cultures with distinct languages, with distinct habits, with distinct ways of thinking. It's just different cultures. There is no EU culture, and the project has been incredibly detrimental. And I think that we will see over the next, period of decades as the EU breaks apart. That it was not a good idea, and it was basically based on increasing authority from above. And what people want is independence, is being able to make decisions for their own communities, feeling like they're really in this together with the people that are around them, and then opening up for others, showing other people their culture. What EU does is it kills culture. EU culture is not a real thing. So that's Hat on Head's take on the EU project and where it's at now. It kind of came up in one of the headlines, and I thought I would elaborate on it. As someone who speaks 4 of the European languages fluently, has spent a lot of time living over in those countries, I think that I love the distinct countries of Europe, how they are, what they're about. And I think that the European project comes in and it kills all that, little by little, over time. So that's what I think. Glad to have you drop a comment if you disagree. I'm sure there's many people who are watching these videos that disagree with me. Happy to start a dialogue to talk about what are the positive aspects of the EU. What has it done that, that's great. So anyways, hope everyone has a great Tuesday, April 14th. You're able to stay positive and keep your hat on your head. Thanks for joining me.